Ambassador Mohamed with us. Welcome to the 4skins podcast.
Thank you very much.
This is a new podcast. This is actually our first episode. So it's an honor to have you join us for our very first episode.
Thank you very much.
We're excited. We have joined with us Bobo Pillai, and we have Timoloho, or you can call him Big Dog. You don't have to call him Big Dog.
You really don't.
Big Dog. Big Dog.
I don't encourage it.
Yeah, so welcome guys to the 4skins podcast, proudly sponsored by, actually we have no sponsors yet, but if we could be sponsored by anyone, I would love Simply Asia to sponsor us. So Simply Asia, if you can hear us, if you're watching this, please get at us, email us, call us, or whatever, we'll make it happen. Thank you guys so much for being here. I know this was, we've been talking about this podcast for how long, Timolo?
Oh, a couple of months, almost a year, actually.
Yeah.
Almost a year.
It's been a year.
And now we finally got the first person that we've been looking forward to the most here. So we're really excited about this particular episode.
Yeah. I'm
definitely
excited. And I'm excited to have Bobo as well.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me, guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So, Ambassador Mohamed, you are the ambassador of Western Sahara to Botswana. Now, not many people actually know where Western Sahara is or what Western Sahara is. So, tell us a little bit about geographically, where is Western Sahara and what is going on there? Tell us a little bit about your country.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for having me in this program. And I hope that you will have all the supervisors and sponsors of your program.
Simply Asia, get at us.
Western Sahara is an African country in the extreme northwest of Africa, just south of Morocco. The immediate neighbors are Morocco in the north, Algeria in the east, Mauritania from the east and south, and the Atlantic Ocean on the west. Like all other African nations, we were colonized by European countries. In our case, it was Spain, which after, I don't know if you know the famous or unfamous Berlin Conference of 1884, in which the powers of Europe decided to split our nations into like pieces. And if you go to the African map, you will see that it is just a map that was drawn with rulers between these superpowers. From 1884 until 1975, we were a Spanish colony. Of course, Sahrawis have always resisted European invasions.
Right.
The Portuguese, the Spanish, the British, the German, everyone tried to invade our territory. And I can tell you, for example, from some French reports, they are reporting every year like hundreds of attacks by Sahrawis against French colonizers everywhere, not only in Western Sahara, but also in neighboring countries like in Mauritania. We have never left them in peace because they were attacking our neighbors. And also because we, as Sahrawis, we have a very strong like feeling and spirit of warriorship. We don't respect violent people. We don't respect people who come as invaders or come as violent. We don't respect that. And to the contrary, the Sahrawis are nomads, and like I think like most of African nations, the main wealth of Sahrawis were livestock. In our case, we don't have cows, we have camels and goats, and so that was the main source of wealth. And Sahrawis, like all Africans, are very generous with anyone who comes, like
I see.
Friendly.
Are there a lot of tourists coming in and out?
You can give, I'll tell you something. We don't have buildings, we have tents. You have other houses in Africa. And the tent normally doesn't have walls, doesn't have doors. It is open. And it has 4 openings that are aligned with the 4 directions.
Okay.
You can come from any of them. As a guest, as a friend, as a traveler. You don't need to know who are these people. If you need help, you just come, you will be attended. And I think this is what all Africans were doing. And this is why, maybe one of the reasons why we were always surprised by these people who come as invaders, because we don't get it, we don't understand. Why are these people coming to take what is not theirs?
Yes.
Because we don't do that. So this is a part of our culture. Since 75, unfortunately, instead of decolonizing Western Sahara like the rest of Africa, like Namibia, South Africa, that maybe you have lived recently, Spain signed a secret agreement with Morocco, withdrew from the territory without unilaterally, without warning us, and suddenly in 75, 31st of October 1975, we had a double invasion from our two neighbors, Morocco and Mauritania.
Okay.
I mean, words sometimes don't really reflect what happened, because when you say invasion, what does it mean? Invasion means massacres. It means attacks against nomads. It means an attempt to just sweep away a whole population with its livestock, with everything from the face of earth. This is what Morocco did. To this day, we still find mass graves where innocent civilians have been apparently shot dead, sometimes put in groups like families, put together in like a mass grave. Just they dig a hole and they throw them there and they go away. So this is what happened in 75, 76. Fortunately for us, as I told you, we have this background of warriors. So it was like an instant to defend, of course.
Right.
To defend yourself. We didn't find the problem in the willing of the people to fight back this military invasion. Besides, Sahrawis have already had political organization to fight the Spanish colonialism. And in 73, we started armed struggle against Spain. Polisario Front, which is the name is the Front for the Liberation of Saghi al-Hamra and Rio de Oro, which are the two main regions in our country, was constituted back in 1973. And from the 20th of May 73, it fought the Spanish. Then when the Moroccan came, it organized the armed struggle and resistance against the Moroccans. For 16 years, from 75 to 1991, we fought Morocco and Mauritania. Mauritania withdrew from the conflict in 1979 and recognized the Sahrawi Republic. Morocco is still there, occupying a huge part of Western Sahara. So this is in short. There's a lot of other details. If you want, I can continue. As I told one of you in our discussions, a Polisario Front in the 70s and 80s was considered by all African liberation movement, all of them, as an example to follow, because we were very successful as warriors, as freedom fighters, and we succeeded to implement a very effective guerrilla war against the Moroccan army, which was way back bigger than ours and better equipped, supported by the French, by the Israelis, by many powers. But their weakness was that they're not fighting for anything serious. They're fighting for salaries.
Right. But what do you say to the critics that accuse Algeria of having ulterior motives, and by doing so, they fund the Polisario movement and they give them weapons, actually?
Show me one single liberation movement that was not described as criminals, as mercenaries, as you know what. These are, if you go back to any colonial experience, you will find that colonialists try to find excuses for their actions. What is Morocco doing in our country?
Right.
In the first place, And if we go to Algeria, it's not only Algeria which is supporting us. That's not true. Libya supported us. Mauritania, when it withdrew in 79, adopted a very good position and recognized the Sahrawi as a state, independent state. South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, Ethiopia, the African Union as an organization. And let me tell you something. What is Algeria supporting in the end? Algeria is supporting the right to self-determination, which is a principle in the United Nations. So can you blame a country for supporting that?
No.
Because this is what Morocco is blaming Algeria for.
Right.
Or South Africa, when South Africa is speaking every year in the United Nations, and lately in the 29th of October, because it is a member in the Security Council, it spoke against the United Nations inaction in Western Sahara, and it denounced the way even some countries in this United Nations are dealing with our case, saying that there's no democratic process in negotiating and writing the UN resolution within the Security Council, only on Western Sahara. South Africa was saying, why is a member state of the Security Council able to discuss all issues and bring their inputs to resolution? Why not in Western Sahara? Why in Western Sahara, a small group of countries, they call themselves the group of the Friend of Western Sahara, no one appointed them to do that. No one gave them the right to do that. And they decide what resolution to write, and they just put it to the table, forcing other members to sign it. And you're gonna laugh, because who are these members? The Friend of Western Sahara, the US, France, UK, Russia, and Spain. Where are Africans?
Right.
Why don't we see South Africa? Why is Algeria not there? Why the African Union as an organization is not there? Why is there a need to have a small group controlling this issue? Why? Who are you protecting?
Right.
You know, there's a lot of questions.
Are you a little concerned that as time goes on, the liberation effort looks a little difficult to achieve? Do you think that is it Dakla?
That is the bet of the Moroccans.
Yes. So as they develop the cities, the liberation movement will take some time, because now you're fighting economic powers, isn't it? Not just military powers.
We already were fighting economic powers. You know, do you think that Morocco could stay in Western Sahara if it wasn't backed by economic powers?
Right.
It doesn't have the means.
So what is the motivation then? Why so much Western influence?
Yeah. When you hear Western Sahara, it is desert.
Yeah.
So there's nothing there.
There's no oil?
This is the first impression.
You don't have oil?
No, it's very rich. Like all African countries, it is very rich in all imaginable resources. The one that Morocco is exploiting now, not only Morocco, but name it, the European Union, many countries, the Japanese, the Korean, everyone is fishing in our coasts. We have 1,200 kilometer coast, among the richest in the world. And you know that fishing and fisheries is I don't want to give you a wrong number, but it represents a big percentage in the food, in the international food.
Okay.
And we have phosphate, Western Sahara. By grabbing.
That's actually what I wanted to ask about as well.
Yeah.
Yes, the bauxite as well, isn't it?
Phosphate.
I wanted to also ask you something else. You mentioned earlier that you were a journalist in an earlier part of your life. I've seen reports of journalists and other activists being arrested by the Moroccan government. Is that true? Has that been happening?
Yes.
Even as recent as, I think, 2010, there was a journalist.
Isn't yesterday? People are in the street every single day, and especially now when Polisario Front officially declared that it is no more tied up with the ceasefire since Morocco initiated the attack and the aggression. I don't know if you followed what happened in Friday. There were some 50 around 50 civilians from Sahrawi civil society demonstrating in front of the Moroccan military wall, which is an illegal military wall in their own occupied territory. And they were not armed, they were not attacking anyone, just with, demonstrators.
Peaceful protest. Yeah.
On Friday, Morocco decided to attack them. But Polisario before that said no, because it was asked to remove them. They said, no, you cannot, no one, no UN, no US, no one can ask us as a government to attack our own people because they're peacefully demonstrating for their rights. This is not something we do. Maybe you tolerate Morocco doing it in our occupied territories, but we will not do it. And second, if any soldier, any Moroccan civilian attack these people, the ceasefire is finished and we will respond. So I think that the UN and also Morocco didn't take seriously our warning, though we told the UN, we told the Security Council, we told the other party, of course. And they tried to cross the berm. They initiated the attack. The Sahrawi army immediately responded, removed the demonstrators, and war started. Few hours after that, Morocco also had problems in occupied cities where Sahrawis are fighting. I should show you later some footages and
yes, I think
so
we'll show it on the video.
We have war again.
Yes, we should.
And to come back to the liberation struggle.
Yes.
Believe me, we were holding our people back for 30 years. For 30 years, I remember I was a student when this ceasefire. I was a student in university when the ceasefire started in 91. 91. I was a student in university. And I remember that few months after that, when the United Nations forces came, as students' organization, we said, no, these people are not serious. They're not really imposing, like, you are UN. You shouldn't obey the Moroccan occupier. In trivialities, like they force them to put Morocco in their cards. There's no other mission in the world that doesn't hold UN plate in its cards, except MINURSO. They forced, they humiliated them, and they accepted it. So we knew that this is just a joke. And from 91, from few months after the ceasefire, we have never stopped the resistance as students.
Okay.
We have never stopped. And in 92, for example, I was arrested myself with another 100 students arrested. When I say arrested, you think it is arrested. No, kidnapped.
Okay.
We are kidnapped. And we are put in secret detention camps. No court, no accusation,
no due process.
Nothing.
Yeah. What were the events that led up to your arrest?
Huh?
The events that led up to your arrest?
They don't need. I mean, you are pro-Sahrawi, you are pro-independence, then you are a criminal. That's their. That's how they treat us. But anyway, I can tell you that people were patient for 30 years, and they have been held against their will by Polisario Front to stop and give peace a chance. This is what Polisario have been saying for 30 years. I remember, for example, the late president. I used to meet him as a journalist, and and as a young man, I would say, no, but why did you accept the ceasefire?
Right.
Like other countries, they said, sit down. we have a nice saying that we say that him who didn't fight war is courageous, of course, because they think it's easy. It's like movies.
Right.
No, war means life lost. War means instability. War means that nothing is normal in your life. No families. For 16 years of war, Sahrawi fathers have not been able to raise their children. They didn't have time for the children. They are in the front.
Right.
So there's a lot of a huge price that you pay.
Sacrifice.
So he said, I am not, he was telling me, I am not ready to pay a price unless I have to. So while the United Nations, he said, is dealing with the issue and showing showing that it will resolve the issue or want to do it, we will give it a chance, he said. And at the meantime, we are building ourselves, because we have to know that we are a very young community, a very young nation. We have never had governments and states and institutions. No, we were nomads.
Right. You guys have to jump in if you can if you want to.
Yes, I was actually gonna ask him about what type of intervention does he think will be needed? What type of intervention do you think will be needed? A typical example, one of the criticisms I personally always have is sometimes it takes too long for the global community or even the African Union to get involved in certain conflicts. I mean, it took how many people dying before something was done in Rwanda? And the same applied even in the war in Mogadishu, in Somalia, when the US military alongside the UN had to go in there and stabilize the region. What type of effort are you hoping for from the international community would actually resolve this problem? And also, why do you think it hasn't happened yet?
I think that the international community, the Organization of African Unity, back since the 60s, have been deploying efforts to resolve, to decolonize all Africa, including Western Sahara, because we were included in the OAU efforts since 63. 63 was the real start of the African unity. Before that, it didn't exist. So we were among this, and the OAU have always tried to convince Morocco to stop this invasion. And when Morocco didn't accept, the AAU took the decision in 1982 that it will recognize the Sahrawi Republic as a full-fledged member of the organization, and denied the Moroccan attempt to expand its territory on our expense. So, and also you have to know that the plan that the United Nations initiated in 1991 was initially an African plan. It was Africa that, engineered, if you want, designed the plan. The plan was very simple. It just implemented the international law, which says that for colonized people, you organize a referendum. There's no other choice, And this is the only guarantee that you make sure that no parties, not Morocco, not even Polisario, not even Sahrawi Republic, hijack the people's decision. This is the core meaning of self-determination. And this is why it is everywhere in all the main international documents, like the UN Charter, like all these covenants for civil, political rights, all these charters and the main mechanisms are recognized in the principles, not only articles, they're principles, that the peoples have got right self-determination, and that people are the only sovereign over their country, over their resources, and over the future and fate of what they want to do with this. It's not, it's no one else.
Yeah, 100%.
And certainly not foreigners. So what the United Nations must do now is to implement its laws. We're not asking for anything. We're not asking for what is not ours. The UN, if it really believes that its laws deserve to be implemented, and if it really believes that it has to protect its charter, it has to organize a referendum on self-determination. And in fact, they even have got to intervene militarily against Morocco, because this is a clear case of aggression. But they're not doing it, of course, because Morocco has got a backbone supporting it and giving it free hands to try to Because you have to understand something. The real drive behind what happened in Western Sahara was, of course, the natural resources, but also the disrespect of the people, because they saw that we are very small.
Right.
We are nomads. We are, as they used to say, shepherds. We are just a bunch of shepherds. We will sweep them away in 1 week. But 1 week turned up to be 45 years of resistance. And Morocco has no other issues to discuss anywhere but Western Sahara. It is fighting to impose itself. If I tell you things that Morocco is doing to get the recognition of anyone that Western Sahara is Moroccan, you will laugh. Lately, they are bringing small countries, giving them money, buying corrupted politicians to open consulates in occupied territories. Consulate for whom? How can you open a consulate in an occupied territory where you don't have any citizen? Who are you serving? They're serving Morocco. He is organizing international forums and international conferences, but when you look, what is these conferences? What are the outcomes? Who are participating? It doesn't have any meaning. Just wasting money and taking the photo. And this country, this is what they want, to propagate that the country, this or that, is supporting the Moroccanity of Western Sahara and so on. So I think that, like all colonialists, they tried everything. They tried to kill us. They tried to exterminate us. They put in our kids in the prisons. We have political prisoners now that we're speaking. And we have students in Moroccan universities demonstrating. We have now fights and attacks by Sahrawi resistance and freedom fighter on Moroccan military position for 2 days, and now for the third day. And we won't leave them alone. We can't. We gave them 30 years. It's enough.
I can understand that position. I understand where your passion is coming from. But so tell me, whenever I log on and I was doing research to actually get to have this conversation with you, I would see a lot of articles on human rights violations going on in Western Sahara. This is done by the Moroccan government. Wow.
Yeah, because basically since the 90s, because human right activism worldwide is you can say is very recent, though the international community adopted the Declaration of Human Rights since 1948. But technically and practically, it was only in the 80s, maybe, with the constitution of Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and this organization, that it came to light. All these organizations, without exception, Human Rights, Amnesty, Frontline, Robert Kennedy Foundation, name it, IDH, they all report every year about the situation in Western Sahara and Morocco. You will always find Morocco/Western Sahara or Morocco, Western Sahara, and they report about what's going on in Western Sahara. And you will find torture, disappearance, political prisoners, like oppressing of any demonstration.
Yes, I saw an article about a mass disappearance where a large group of Western Sahrawi were disappeared a couple of years ago.
I can give you this one. A technical team of international experts, not Sahrawis, worked on this because, to do especially work on mass graves, it's very huge, because you need DNA, you need to go to you need to find the mass grave first, and then you need to go, and I can't do it, you can't do it. You need experts who will open the graves and take all these bones and start collecting information. And I have a book or two about these findings, which is very, very interesting, because some of these people who were identified, because they didn't still identify all these victims, but those of them who were identified, we were registering them as victims of disappearance. But no one knew what happened with them, because sometimes they were kidnapped alone, sometimes they were kidnapped from their families but then disappeared. So no one could say that they were killed. And also, many victims of disappearance were released by Morocco in 1991 after the signature of the ceasefire. Around 326 people emerged after Morocco was denying that it has them in the first place. It has always denied. You know? But then in 91, they were released. And when they came back, a lot of them, or the majority, were telling terrible stories about how they were maintained in old bases, military bases, treated like animals, like sometimes for years, some of them, blindfolded, handcuffed. Imagine sitting in you don't know even where you're sitting, for 4 years, for 16 years, for 11 years. Women and men, people who die or who used to die in this secret detention camp, they were just removed like garbage.
It's awful.
You know,
it's terrible.
So it's really, and there are documents about from international organization about all this, but who is reading them?
Right.
And then who is doing anything about that? No one.
So for those listening that would like to learn more about Western Sahara, where can they go? Is there a website? Do you have a link for us?
There are many websites. There are official websites. There are also activists like yourself who have their own websites. They're trying to do something about their issue. And I can give you a list of reliable resources. We have a website. I started a website for the embassy.
Yes.
And it's not a normal, like usual embassy website. It is a website that gives or presents Western Sahara issue to any interested person.
I see.
So I'm bringing official positions, latest development, the main one, to the reader. Plus documents, also documentation, UN, OAU, and everything.
Okay. I mean, on that note, you are the ambassador of Western Sahara to Botswana. So
Officially, I am the ambassador of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic. This is the political name of Western Sahara. Western Sahara is like if you say bushland.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
So
Say
it
that
is
again.
the geographic name.
Say the full designation, the full title again.
Because it is in the west and it is a desert.
Yeah.
So colonialists say, okay, let's name this Western Sahara.
So this is
But if
the
you
proper name, the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic.
Yes.
Okay.
SADR.
SADR.
Yeah. And to shorten it, we say Sahrawi Republic.
Sahrawi Republic.
Like if you say Botswana Republic, because Sahrawi is the people of Western Sahara, so we call them Sahrawi. Like Botswana.
Okay.
Botswana.
I'm never going to call it Western
Botswana
Sahara again.
Republic.
So we should drop the Western.
Huh?
Never bring in the Western Sahara. Always SADR.
No, it's fine. We don't have any problem with Western Sahara. It is a geographical name, so it's not a problem.
So the Sahrawis will not.
As long as it is not the Moroccan Sahara, it's fine.
Wow.
I want to talk about culture.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about Pan-Africanism. I want to talk about cultural genocide. You, for example, when we have had our discussions, you've talked about always in public appearing in your national garments. So is that something that you are proactively trying to be conscious of, making sure that your culture is represented? For example, I know Putin, he doesn't speak English when he's being interviewed. He always speaks Russian. And so I would like to think that that's a way of him trying to honor his people and honor his culture and honor his language.
Tito.
Putin. Vladimir.
Putin, okay.
Vlad.
Okay.
Uncle Vlad. No, I don't know him. Vlad. Yeah, so do you think that's one of the reasons why every time you have a public showing or you have a public meeting, you always make sure that you're wearing the national attire.
This is a decision that I have always taken, whenever I can, of course. To refuse to wear Western clothes, like I have ties, I can use them. But if I am in an official function, if I am in a meeting or something, I have to dress Sahrawi, which is African. This is one of our dress. And I think it is a statement that we are not we were not born yesterday when we were colonized, as a lot of colonizers are trying to put in the brain of a lot of our kids that Africa doesn't exist. We're just animals and barbers living in without civilization, without culture, without music, without anything. Then the Europeans come to give us civilization. This is what a lot of, not all of them, of course, but a lot of European and colonialists in particular are trying to maintain us believing, because this is the way they continue controlling our future. And I can tell you that in Western Sahara, my people, maybe because we have been fighting for a century now, more than a century, it has never stopped. Since the 15th century, it has never stopped. The Sahrawi resistance have never stopped. As I told you again, the Portuguese, not anyone who tried to infiltrate our territory. So maybe we have this. We know that we have to maintain our culture.
Right.
We have a very strong attachment to our poetry, like traditional poetry. A poet in my country is more influential and powerful than the President of the Republic.
Really?
Yes. With one poem, this is how deep this culture is. One poet can recite a poem and move a whole nation.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And actually, Polisario Front back in the 70s was using poetry and culture to recruit and to bring Sahrawis to the struggle. Because in the 70s we didn't have a website, we didn't have a lot of media.
Yes.
But we did have tapes. I don't know if you know.
Yes, I remember tapes.
The cassette, the tape.
Yes.
So one tape, one tape with poetry and songs is better than a book written, because you can make copies and it will reach anyone, even these ignorant people who can't read and write. Because in 75 also, I have to tell you, Spain left the country and we had a dozen of students in university. Like a dozen, like maybe 10, maybe less than 10. Spain left the country, maybe we have one doctor or two. This is how serious the situation was back then. We didn't have anyone. So I would tell you that resistance and cultural resistance and the also focus by Polisario on education, because from 75 men were fighting, all kids were in school, even in the desert. I should show you the footages.
Right.
You will have teacher teaching kids in the open, or in a hole, like in a truncheon built to, just in case there is some attacks. It was very serious. It was very serious, and it was a general struggle to bring up these people, to empower them.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that now that we have students everywhere in the world, not here in Botswana still, but maybe, but we have students who studied in the US, in Spain, in Libya, in Russia, in any country that is ready to receive our kids, we send them. Cuba, especially.
Okay.
Cuba is
Doctors.
I don't know if you know what Cuba is, but Cuba is a real fighter for humanity, I would say.
Yeah.
They did a lot for humanity, especially for Africa.
Mm.
There's no single country in Africa that didn't teach their kids or some of their kids in Cuba for free. For free.
Mm.
And they give them back to you. Not unlike some countries who
Where
hold
they
them.
retain, yeah.
They give them back to you, doctors, engineers, and whatnot.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So tell me, seeing as you're a diplomat, your mission is to bring awareness to the issues your country is facing and also to build bridges, isn't it, with you and other countries? What bridges do you think we can build between our two nations, Botswana and Western Sahara? I'm curious to find out how you see that relationship growing over the years.
Mm-hmm. I think that the first step in any meeting or encounter is recognition. This one we have. Then introduction, who you are and who we are. Because one of the obstacles between African nations is that we ignore each other. We don't know the history of each other. Sometimes we even, because of some like brainwashing that we have still in our back, we even think that some Africans are our enemies sometimes.
That's right.
Yes. That's a
and
problem.
so this is what the first step is, to break this ignorance, break this lack of interest in African issue. You are African, like it or not.
Yes.
You can't change that.
Yeah.
You can't take Africa like Botswana or Zimbabwe or any country from Africa and go to the West. You can't.
Yeah.
This is impossible. I don't say that we don't have to build a relation with people in the West. No. But there will be never respect or mutual respect unless we respect ourselves first, know our brothers and sisters first, then go to the world. And this is the vision and dream of the African Union and of the forefathers who built the African Union, is to build an Africa with 1,000 nations, no problem. This is diversity. This is rich. We are very rich in Africa, in everything, in languages, in cultures, in songs, we don't even need resources to make a living in Africa. If we give the right focus and the right attention to all these small things that we overlook sometimes, but they're very rich. Other people don't have, maybe. So I think that this is the first step: recognition, introductions, and building knowledge of not only Western Sahara. I think that you, as Botswana youth, you have to know your neighbors first, then go in circles. When you finish from SADC, go to other countries. And there are a lot of young people in any country, in any African country like yourself, who are just waiting to meet.
Yeah. Wait,
and you don't have an excuse, unlike us. You have internet.
Right.
We didn't.
Yes.
I'm telling you, to organize a demonstration back then in the 80s, we had to stick to respect the time.
Yeah.
And if you don't appear, it means that you're dead or you're arrested. This is the life we will live in there. You have no excuse. You can gather 1 million people in one day through internet.
Yeah. You've been in Botswana for a few months now, or is it up to a year?
1 year.
1 year.
1 year and 3 months.
Okay. So in your 1 year and 3 months, what are some of the things that you appreciate about how Botswana is being run?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things you like about this country? And maybe some of the things that maybe you wish did not exist, or did not exhibit themselves?
I would say that what I like about Botswana, of course, I am feeling at home because it is desertic like my country. So I'm serious, I didn't feel any change.
It's dry.
I'm serious.
No, it is dry. Yeah.
We have the same trees, not you have more trees and more agriculture in your country because maybe you have more water than we do.
Yeah.
But we have acacia, we have all this desertic. If I go to your desert, take along the animals which we used to have back in the 20s, maybe the 90s, we used to have all these animals. But otherwise, I don't feel any big change in the weather. This is one thing.
Okay.
A second thing, I think from what I appreciate, that we are very similar as African people. You are tribes. We have tribes. I think we have a very tied and linked social life as people, as nations, as families. We have the same. We have big families. We are very simple. This is not us. This is Europe. We in our. If I take you to my place, you will sit down. We call it. You listen to your bones. When you lay, you listen to your bones.
Like getting up afterwards.
This is also similarities. A lot of cultural similarities. Also, I like the simplicity of the people. Very open, very simple. There's no arrogance in our attitudes.
Yeah.
And also, the arrogance can happen if you are aggressive, like I told you.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of things that we share, not only with Botswana, but with all Africa. We only need to dig. We only need to know each other and to forget these differences in languages, because sometimes the lack of communication, we think that there are differences, but they are not very big.
Yeah.
We're all humans. We all have families. We all love our kids. We all want the best for our neighbor, for our brother. We share all this.
Yeah.
And I also like about Botswana that you can criticize it as you wish. You can have a negative view, like personal views, but at least you have a basic democracy in your country.
Yeah.
You have to be proud of it and fight for it. Continue fighting for it.
Okay.
Because without democracy, you have nothing.
Right.
You have cows. Not cows. They're cows. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
So this is also something that you have to fight for it positively, always. When I'm fighting your idea, it doesn't mean that I'm fighting you.
Yes.
You're my brother.
Yes.
But we have views.
I like that idea. I love that.
That's
This is the spirit.
Mm.
I don't like like what's happening in many democracies, where your life, your idea is your party. No, this is wrong. The party is supposed to serve the people. The party is not a human being. The party is a people. And if my party doesn't serve my people or my principle, I should fight within my party to change this. This is the idea of political parties.
Right.
To serve a better idea, to serve a vision for the whole nation. This is what should, in my humble view. And I think that you have a very good opportunity as Botswana young people to do something about your country. And I think that COVID-19 opened many eyes, or should open many eyes, according to myself, and should give us a lesson, a very simple one, that you have to rely first on yourself. You have to rely on yourself. You have to forget about give me like kids.
Yeah.
When you're a human being, you're no more a kid. You have to fight. You have to give. You have to do things for others. This is the spirit that makes leaders and that makes people who build things for their country. I like a very famous idea. I'm not sure if I will phrase it as it is, but Kennedy, John Kennedy said a very famous saying when he said that as American, he was talking to the American, you should stop asking what America is doing for you and start doing things for America. This is what should be the spirit. You should stop to ask what your country is doing for you.
Oh, I think
But
I
how are you
remember
building
that.
your country?
Yeah. Ask not what the government can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
Yes.
Was that Reagan or Kennedy? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Was
Kennedy.
F. Kennedy?
At his inaugural speech.
Okay. All right. Just a minute. Peter, how many minutes are we coming up on?
51.
51. Okay. So we've got 10 minutes left.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm really sorry.
No, that's
No,
okay.
great. You've
Uh,
been great. We
No,
really
it's
enjoyed
been
it.
amazing so far.
Very informative.
Yes.
Yeah.
But one of the things you really caught my interest in is how you identify with your African identity. And
I love that.
I really like that for two reasons. Number one, because I actually had a chance to travel to some countries in the Arab region, and I noticed certain groups might not view themselves as Africans, even though
Where?
they originate.
Which country?
When I was in Egypt, I noticed that some of them would say they're not African, but you insist that you are African. I think that's a positive step in even the diplomacy and the way we can build bridges between our two cultures. That's a very positive thing for me when I hear you speak like that.
That's very normal. If you know who are our, in Western Sahara, like in all countries, we didn't have connection. Like, because, in the ancient time, to travel just 100 kilometers, it was a challenge.
Yes.
So there wasn't a lot of connection between African nations. But when we started our revolution and our fight against the Spanish and the Moroccans, we only found Africans beside us, except for Cuba, Venezuela after Chavez. The only supporters of Sahrawis, like the real ones, were Africans. So this is one. As I told you, we share a lot of things with Africa, like in our behaviors, in our manners, So I think the bond is normal. Yeah.
There was a big issue about football. I know sometimes Egypt doesn't like playing the African Cup of Nations. Well,
Yes.
I don't know. Do you think that's true? Because a lot of their players in the development phases of their footballing career, they go to France, right? And so a lot of them don't see the value of playing their football in Africa because it doesn't pay as much, and you don't have a gateway into Europe to play football.
Yes.
You might end up in the Premier League, English Premier League, or So I don't know. I do see. It's not an excuse to say you're not African, but I do see that most people see the value of going to the West for better opportunities. I don't know if you can put it that way.
No, I understand that, but my issue had always been, if you're on this continent, why would you feel like you're not a part of it? I guess that's... But you don't seem to feel that way, and your people don't seem to feel that way, so I think that's it.
People as individuals are different. They hold this is normal, but maybe because of my experience, and I'm not the only one, but a lot of Sahrawis. We know Europe. We have been in a lot of Europe. From 2006 to 2013, maybe I visited 26 countries or 30 countries around the world. When I was a journalist, I was an activist, a human rights defender. I was in most of Europe. So I know what Europe is. I know what it is. It's not for me. It's not for our culture. It's not for, it's different. It's not bad. I don't say it's bad. No, I have a lot of friends everywhere. But they are who they are, and I am who I am. We should be very proud of who I am. Why should I look high to others just because, I don't think that this is a good attitude.
Yeah.
And also, my fight, my life, the future of my kids, I don't see it in Europe. I should see it as an African in my country or in Africa. And this is where I should build and waste my time. Because in the end, how many years we will live? Life is very short.
True.
And doing things and achievement in this life is even shorter. So you better not waste your time.
And just to jump in, just going back to your comment where you said that we have seen footballers leaving
Yeah.
the continent.
Yeah.
Yes, it's true. There's an exodus of great players leaving and going to play in Europe. But we should ask our questions and make such conversations that we need to develop our own continent. We need to develop our own, our own
sports
our
leagues.
own sports, and facilities for sports. For example, if I was to build a house this side and your house you build next to me, and I have kids, if I don't develop my house, the kids will always look at your house because you have so much great. They'll
Yeah.
always want to go to your house because you have toys, you have a swimming pool, you have so many resources. So it's time that internally as Africans we start looking how do we develop our home so that the future generations, they don't have a desire to leave this
I will give you
continent.
an example
Yes, sir.
of what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Thomas Sankara.
Yes. Burkina Faso.
He's just a young African like yourself.
Yeah.
But when he grabbed the authority, which is bad, he did a coup d'etat, but he had to, because the government was very bad. But when he did that, he started building his country. He started using the army to grow food for the people. He started organizing the people to work, to grow their own food. And in 4 years, he only lived for 4 years this experience. Burkina Faso was totally autonomous. Totally autonomous. He didn't import anything from outside. But then he was killed by the West, by the
Sounds very
French.
familiar. That's happened more than once.
That's in different countries, yeah. And the story of Thomas is quite a very interesting story. He was a great man. What I loved about Thomas is that he didn't look at his self-interest. He looked at the interests of his people. As a president, he lived a very modest life. He would go to work with a motorcycle. He didn't have a large entourage. So we need more leaders like Thomas Sankara who will look at that people, because we have a lot of leaders in this continent.
And you know how you can get these leaders?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
When you start with yourself.
Yes.
Because we say in Arabic that you get the leaders that you deserve as a people. Because who are your leader? The leader is the elite. What is the elite? It doesn't come from the moon. It comes from the people, from the system, from your university. This is where you build leaders. And unless you work there, like on education, on sport, as you said, on doing things, instead of talking and criticizing, and this is not achievement. Criticizing is not achievement.
Right.
Achievement is action. You do action. You do something. Something for you, but also for your community, for your country, for your government. This is what you even the government. Sometimes I hear people, not only here but everywhere. The government didn't do. The government did. Why don't you do if the government doesn't do?
Right.
Why don't you do?
Because it's hard to change the world if you're not willing to change yourself first. It's very hard. So I agree with him that we need to create a culture in our young people from an early age where we teach our young people in this continent about leadership. What's leadership? Where we raise an awareness what corruption does to a country, a nation. We need to start having this conversation with our young people so that they grow up knowing that, this is what corruption has done to our continent, and this is why we are still way behind. So, we need to just create that culture with our young people.
This issue of corruption, there are a lot of, let me say, sexy issues that people like to talk about everywhere, not everywhere. Corruption, What is corruption? Corruption only occurs in a place when there is no real work, there is no vision, there is no a national, collective effort to go to. This is when corruption started to be a problem everywhere. Corruption is everywhere. Name one country that you think is free of corruption, and I will bring you some examples of corruption. Any European, the Americans, whatever. Do you think that there is a bigger corruption than a country violating the international law in other people's house? Thieves, they're thieves. Some countries are just thieves. And at the same time, they're given advices and they're criticizing other people, the other countries when it suits them. But what are you doing as a government in other people's places, stealing their resources? This is not corruption. This is good.
Yeah.
So, so it is a very tricky issue.
Ambassador Mohamed, we are running out of time.
Yeah.
But before we leave, is there any final remarks, anything you want to say to anyone who's watching and listening?
A lot of people who I met told me rightly that maybe in Botswana, a lot of people will not relate with Western Sahara issue and that, it's very difficult to sell the issue. I said, it doesn't matter. That's not my problem. What really matters to me is to come to you as Botswana people and say, this is Western Sahara. And I throw it in your table. What you are doing about it, it's your problem, it's not mine. You will not say tomorrow that you don't know. This is my goal. My goal is that in Botswana, people will know about Western Sahara, will know about Sahrawis, will know about our fights. What they do about them is their problem. It's not mine. I love to see Africans, all Africans, contributing to our fight, because we have a lot of Europeans, Americans, Russians, Australians in the fighting with us, building website, writing articles, doing their own things, their own associations of support to Sahrawis.
Yeah.
We don't control them, but they are doing it when they knew and when they understood that our fight is not a political fight. It is a fight about a basic right for all peoples. It must be respected. And it should not be our fight alone.
Yeah.
We're not fighting only for our liberation. We're fighting to impose the respect of the will of the people on their country.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much,
Thank you so
Ambassador
much.
Thank you very
Mohamed,
much.
for being here.
Yes.
Thank you for allowing us to actually echo your message
Thank you very much.
to the public and to the world. Guys, I think that was an amazing session.
Yes.
And I'd just like to add something. I loved what the ambassador said, that this is not politics. We're talking about the dignity of people. We're talking about the basic rights of people.
Yeah.
We're talking about the freedoms of people, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, So, I'm just happy that this country that we're in right now, Botswana, stands solitary with the people of Western Sahara.
Yeah.
Since 1980.
Since 1980.
They recognize Sahrawi Republic.
Yeah. And, that gives me even the freedom to, as Botswana as well, to support that cause.
Yeah.
And this country has a good track record of supporting many liberation groups that fought for their independence.
100%.
This country was in the frontline states as well. It started the frontline states where, Namibia, on our west, Namibia was there, occupied. On our south, South Africa was occupied. Zimbabwe as well. So we are surrounded by countries that were fighting. Angola, Mozambique. And we're right there in the middle. So I'm just happy that, this country is standing together with the people of Western Sahara, because, I believe that, our forefathers and founding fathers, they didn't fight slavery and colonization for us to fight between ourselves as Africans.
Right.
And it's time that we understand that it is hard to build in instability and in war. I think the Americans, the Europeans, they caught that after the whole World War. Now, they have that peace they can build. That's why they're progressing. But as long as we're still fighting ourselves internally in Africa, it's going to be hard for us to develop this continent the way that we want to develop it.
And we should stop blaming others for our problems. We have to work.
And work with our internally. We don't have to go outside there and call people to come solve our issues here. I think it's time that we, as Africans, we come with our internal solutions to our problems. There's a slogans that are like African solutions for African problems.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. African solutions
for African,
problems. Nice.
We have the relevant solutions here. We know ourselves much more than other people are coming outside can actually come here and tell us to do. So Ambassador, I'm just happy that I had this conversation with you guys.
It's been a real pleasure.
And please do come back whenever you feel like it.
Yes,
I have no problem.
There's so much, right?
Yes, there's so much we still want to talk
So
about.
much we still want to talk about.
I
think we barely scratched the surface, to be honest.
Don't be surprised if we call you 4 or 5 more times.
No problem.
But I have 2 more questions for you.
Oh, which we'll address in the next the next time we have you on here.
I was gonna ask where we're gonna get some good Sahrawi food from.
Food? Oh, I thought you were gonna talk about something else.
Oh, food.
This is a big problem because now we are COVID and my wife is not even here. I couldn't bring her
that's a real
this year.
shame.
So I am cooking sometimes for myself or cook in the embassy.
Okay.
Have you tried saswa?
Huh?
Have you tried saswa?
Yeah.
How
I
is
love it. We do it.
Right?
We have the same. But we do it with camel meat.
Camel?
Oh.
Yes.
I've never had camel.
Yes.
Really?
I'll try it.
Okay.
Camel, my friend, is the best meat. I will tell you why. Look on the internet.
Really?
Don't take my statement for granted. It is the lowest in cholesterol among all meat. It's even better than chicken.
Okay.
Yes, and it is red meat.
Okay.
But you know why? Because camel walk like for every day at least 40 kilometers, 50 kilometers every day. So it has no cholesterol.
Yeah.
Well, when COVID is over and your wife comes around, I'm going to try some camel meat. Well, I'm definitely going to arrange dinner.
I think it is in Kenya. They told me it's in Kenya. It is in Somalia. There's a lot of camel.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Okay.
in Somalia.
okay.
These are the Ethiopia.
What's wrong?
Yeah. That is the fourth. That is the 4skin podcast, guys. We have to end it here.
Yeah.
We have to end it here.
Okay, listen, but one interesting fact that I love is that, we have somebody from North Africa.
Yeah.
We have somebody from West Africa.
What up?
Then we have somebody from South Africa. And somebody on the production team from East
Africa.
Africa. So, we're all African.
That's very good.
And we have a European in the background somewhere.
Who is hosting us?
Who's hosting us? Yeah.
Thank you to Tim.
Yeah. In a mysterious
very
location, I should say. No one should know where we filmed this. Yeah. For the ambassador security, no one is allowed to know where we filmed this. Yeah, we want to keep you safe,
Classified.
Ambassador.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
But thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
That's the 4skin podcast, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
All right.